Figuring out which connectors to use in your project is probably one of the most challenging parts of the process. That's why in today's video, I'm going to give you an overview of all the connectors that we currently have available so you can get an idea of how each of them can be used. I'm also going to show you some community examples along the way so you can see some real-world examples of how the connectors have been used in the past. Let's jump right into it, starting with the first connector. It's right in front of me, the 5-way connector. As the name suggests, this can hold 5 pipes. There's one in the middle and then 4 surrounding pipes. Now, of course, you could use this, oriented both horizontally or vertically, and most commonly we see it used vertically to provide a support. For example, in this 9-square game built by a teacher for his students, you can see that this is used to add a vertical support in the middle of the build and still have all of the pipes coming out of it in order to, continue building out the frame to hold all 9 squares for the game. Now, this is something that we don't see used as often just because it, needs to hold 5 pipes, and it's pretty rare that you have that many pipes coming into one connector. But in that scenario that you do need that, this connector allows you to do that, and that's pretty much the most common way that we see it used, and not too many other variations besides that. Now, just like the 5-way connector, or very similar to the 5-way connector, you have the 4-way connector. And as the name suggests on this one, there's a pipe in the middle and then 3 other pipes, which allows for a total of 4 pipes total connected inside of it. And it has a very similar use to the 5-way connector, but it's more common because it allows you to basically continue a span of pipe and also add a support going to the front of it. One of the most common examples I can think of for this is Andrew's build, where he built an aquaponic tray stand. And you can see that he added 4-way connectors every few feet because it allowed him to have a vertical support pipe and then also a horizontal support pipe going out of the front of the connector, going to the other side, which supported the tray. And then it also allowed him to continue the run of conduit to keep extending the tray out. And that's really a common way that we see the 4-way connector used. Next up, let's look at the 135-degree connector. Now, we have a few different connectors that we'll look at that are basically set angles, and this one is one of them. It's one of our more recent angled connectors. It's the 135-degree, and we see this most commonly used as a pitched roof. So basically, you have it, at the top of a structure, at the peak of a structure, the pipe comes into it at a 135-degree angle. And we've also seen it used in other creative ways, like in this roof rack, for example. Jason used it to basically create an offset for the roof rack. So the pipe comes out of it and the top is narrower than the bottom, or vice versa. I can't remember, but it'll be on the screen. But it basically created an offset, which is a really cool roof rack and a really clever way to use this. We've also seen this used recently in a boat cover build where the builder had it upside down, or I say upside down. It's one of those things where there's really no correct orientation of the connector. But anyway, in his build, it was upside down and he had bent pipes coming out of it at an arch, and that created a nice, kind of arched cover to keep the cover from getting, caught on the connector or caught on like a harsh angle if it was, straight 90 degrees. But most commonly, it's used to create a pitched roof or even an octagon structure like this garden enclosure. Next up, let's look at the adjustable angle flange. This is a flange that allows you to basically have a base that is attached to a flat surface with 6 screws, and then it has the adjustable end coming out of it. So you can attach 1 pipe to a adjustable base. And this works really well for a few different things. Most commonly, we've seen it used to create basically an angle coming off of a flat surface. And that's pretty much the main way we see it used, just to kind of create an angled base. It's pretty self-explanatory. Another flange that we have is we call it the rigid flange here at the shop, but it's really just a standard kind of flange. It has a flat base meant to attach to a flat surface, and then it has a spot for a single pipe coming out of it. And this is used pretty similarly to the adjustable flange to attach a pipe to, a flat surface for creating hanging shelves, for canopies, really just attaching flat surfaces in general. And it also has a couple of other unique uses, which is actually, since the pipe and the way the connector is made, it allows the pipe to go through the connector. And so we've seen a few different creative ways people have used this to basically attach this to a flat surface and then have the pipe continue through that flat surface and support something, as you can see in this speaker build, for example, which is really cool. But just like the adjustable flange, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's basically a strong connection between a pipe and a flat surface. Now, similarly to the adjustable angle flange is the adjustable angle connector. And it's made up of 4 pieces, and 2 of which, connect a through pipe. You can add this on a through pipe anywhere you want. Then you have the end clamp, which will attach a terminating pipe to the puzzle piece clamp. One thing we'll talk about when we get to the T connector, but just because in the pictures we have on the site, you might see this used on a horizontal pipe, it can be used on a vertical pipe or a horizontal pipe. One thing you do have to watch out for is which is where the end clamps, or which plane the end clamps are on. So if you have it on a vertical pipe, then the clamp is going to, swivel in the same plane as that vertical pipe. Or if it's on a horizontal pipe, then the end clamp is going to swivel on the same plane as the horizontal pipe. And we see this used in a lot of different ways. Most commonly, it's just used to create angled bracing. You can have 2 of these and really add bracing anywhere on a build without having to calculate the angles, like we might see with the rigid 45-degree angle, which we'll look at. This allows you to basically just add a brace, measure between the 2 adjustable angle connectors, and then add your pipe. It's pretty simple to add a brace, and you don't have to figure out those angles precisely. So it works pretty well for that. We also see it used as a hinge. We designed it so the top half of the connector can be loose, even though the bottom half is tight, which allows you to create a hinge. And we see that used for different things. Now you can also separate the 2 halves of the connector. We have a lot of hack videos on the channel where we use the puzzle piece clamp to attach different things. We created a gate latch, and we added trolley wheels to a frame, different things that we've done with the puzzle piece clamp. And the same thing goes for the end clamp. We've seen people attach this to the pipe and then create custom flanges to attach this to a mounting point. We've seen it used on a Blazer. We've seen it used on a camper, and different ways that people have done this. There's a really cool a workshop that was it was a workshop converted from a storage container, and they created a base and then used this to add basically a mounting point on the end of the pipe to attach to those bases. So it was really cool to see those different builds, and you can buy the 2 halves separately if you want to use it for something like that. And really, actually, even the puzzle piece clamp, when we designed it to hold a 1/4 inch thick material, so you could attach a flat surface to a build and have the the top surface be flush with the conduit in your frame, which is another cool thing you can do with the puzzle piece clamp. But as a whole, the adjustable angle connector is used for creating angled bracing, and it just makes a great connector to basically add bracing wherever you need without having to calculate the angles as we've talked about. And it works great on the other end of a pipe attached to adjustable flange, for example, or attached to another set angled pipe, because you can basically add it wherever without having to worry too much about the angles. But that's the adjustable angle connector. Pretty useful for a few different things. Next up is this coupling. Now, I've used some of the couplings off the shelf, and basically what they do is join 2 pieces of EMT conduit. The off-the-shelf solutions work great for electrical work, which is what they're designed for. They don't work too well in builds where you need the joint to be really strong. So this coupling joins 2 pieces of conduit together. It's a really simple connector, has a really simple purpose, but as you can imagine, solves a problem where you need to join 2 pieces of conduit. And with the 180-degree connector, which we'll dive into, you need a middle pipe, and that isn't always needed or required in a build. So this coupling kind of fills in the gap for those other projects where you just need to join 2 pieces of conduit together. And you can use this to basically make a build that you can quickly tear down. You can turn a 5-foot section into 2.5-foot sections, or a 3-foot and 2-foot section, and then join them back together and quickly build it back or tear it down later, and have a bunch of smaller pieces instead of several big pieces, if that's the right thing that you need for your project. But most commonly it's used just to join 2 pieces of EMT conduit together. We also have the adjustable 180-degree connector, which basically is 2 end clamps joined together in one connection. And this basically allows you to eliminate the need for stacking angled braces like the 45-degree connector. In that scenario, you'd have to figure out the length of the 2 braces. They would be uneven, it look kind of weird. So this connector allows you to basically, eliminate that need and incorporate 2 even braces all in one connection. And we just came out with this not too long ago, so we haven't really seen any other uses for this, but I'm sure we'll see some clever community solutions with it in the future. But for now, that's kind of its main purpose and design. Next up is the 45-degree angle. And this is one of our rigid angles, one of the first few connectors that we actually launched back in 2015. And this is used most commonly as a brace. As I said, with the adjustable angle, it can be used on a vertical pipe or a horizontal pipe. It's basically just used to add an angled brace wherever you need to add support in a build. It works really well to kind of transfer the weight from, the middle of a pipe all the way down to a vertical pipe on the sides. And it's really most commonly used for that. And it's also used, we've seen, to create, angled roofs, where you have this on a vertical pipe and then it goes up to the roof pitch or the peak. But most commonly it's used to add angled bracing. It's another simple connector that has a simple purpose, but is much needed in a lot of builds because it adds some great bracing and support, which is always a good thing in a build. Another set angled connector is the 180-degree connector. This connects 3 pipes. You have one in the middle and then one on each side, so for a total of 3. And the 2 on the outside are connected at a 180-degree angle, hence the name. And this is used in builds where you need to, continue a long, continuous span of conduit. You need to break up that span and add a vertical. We usually recommend that you add a vertical pipe every 4 or 5 feet. And this is a great way to do that because you can take a 10-foot piece of pipe, cut it in half, have a 5-foot on one side, 5-foot piece on the other side, and then add a vertical support pipe, which will break up that span and give your project some good support. Now, as we've mentioned, it doesn't have to be a vertical, it could be a horizontal pipe. We've seen this used in other ways as well, horizontally. I used it recently in a camper van bed build where I used it horizontally and actually used it to house other pipes in order to create a slider bed. But all that to say, it just doesn't have to be used one way or the other. This basically most commonly is used to break up a long span of pipe and add either a horizontal or a vertical pipe in a project. Next up is the 90-degree connector. And this is a really common one because you can see this used in a ton of builds because rectangles and cubes and squares and anything really that's kind of a cube shape needs 90-degree connectors. It's also referred to as a 3-way connector or a corner connector, because in builds, you'll see it used in the corners, as I said, to make a cube or just a rectangle shape in a lot of projects. And a lot of people will see this and assume that this is what you need for a corner connection. But you really want to pay attention if your build is kind of a 2D square or if it's a 3D cube. Because if you're making a cube, you definitely want to use this connector because it really allows you to do that really easily because you have the pipes coming out of it at a 90-degree angle, then you have the vertical pipe, and then you have another 90 on the opposite side, and you can create a cube really easily with the 90-degree angle. But with the T connector, another common connector, probably the most versatile connector in the Maker Pipe system because it can be used in a lot of different ways. But if you're making a 2D rectangle, you'll want to use the T connector in the corners to make that 90-degree angle because you have the pipe coming, vertically or horizontally, whatever, and you have the pipe coming out of it, and you can create a 90-degree angle with the T connector, but you don't need that third pipe, to go to the front to the back to create a cube. So the T connector is often overlooked for a corner connection, but it works really well for that because it allows you to create that corner connection when you only need 2 pipes coming out of it. We'll see even builders use the 90-degree angle instead of the T, but they'll leave out the middle pipe because they didn't need it in the first place. And instead of doing that, you can just use the T connector to create that 90. It's cheaper and it does a better job of creating that 2-pipe 90-degree angle. But back to the 90 for a second. You don't have to use this vertically or horizontally. I sound like a broken record, but we've seen people use it on its side. It works well like this, basically, to have a horizontal pipe going from front to back, for example. Then you have a pipe that goes to the front of your build, and then or I guess that would be the side. Then you have a pipe coming out the top, and you can use it in either orientation, basically just wherever you need to create a 90-degree angle that requires 3 pipes. But back to the T, because it's so versatile, not only can it be used as a 90-degree connector, you can use it as an angled support. We often show it in a vertical kind of up orientation like this, where you have the through pipe going through it and then a pipe coming out of the bottom. But you can also use it on a horizontal pipe to create an angle. Basically, you can swivel it and then, tighten it down and create an angled support that goes up to a roof. We've seen that commonly. We saw it recently with the greenhouse build where there was a 45-degree angle on the front verticals and the back verticals. And then there were T-connectors on the horizontal pipes to create that angled support going up to the roof. But other than that, as I said, it's really versatile. And most commonly, if you have two pipes that need to join together, this is the way you're going to do it with the T-connector. It allows you to connect those two pipes in various ways, the different orientations we see it used, and it's probably the most versatile, as I said, just because of all the different ways that you can use it. But with that, that's all of the connectors that we currently have available. We're going to continue to add more, and we're going to continue to have different sizes and everything like that. But that's all for this video. Hope you found this helpful and have some new ideas on how you can use the connectors in your projects. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next video.